Stefan, the BMW DIY guy. My project today, I could not be more excited to do this. I'm going to be installing the Active Autowerke Performance Midpipe in an absolutely gorgeous 2018 F80 M3. This is an upgrade you should absolutely consider for your car. The difference that this is going to make, not only in performance and sound, is going to be dramatic. This is an easy install. It's not hard. It's something you can do at home really pretty simply and with some real simple tools. I'm going to lay that out really nicely for you and you can see how it's going to be done. Really quickly, please click subscribe. Please click the little alarm bell next to it so you can see all the notifications from upcoming videos, and I've got a lot of projects in the pipeline just like this one. So I'm really excited to get out to the garage, get this install started, and show you how to do this yourself. All right, here we are out in the garage. We have a gorgeous M3 that we're going to work on this morning and install this Active Autowerke Midpipe. It's up on the quick jacks, which really are fantastic. If you haven't had a chance to watch my quick jack video yet, definitely check that out. Nothing like sliding the rails underneath and hitting the button, and it's 22, 23 inches in the air just seconds later, so all good to go. So I'm going to crawl underneath the car. I'm going to show the exhaust and the parts that we're going to adjust and take off as we go through. We're going to make a couple of cuts. This does not have the MPE exhaust. It has the normal standard exhaust, but that isn't a big deal. So we're going to get this midpipe installed. Now, a little bit different than normal. Being underneath the car, my camera angles are going to be a little bit short because of the distance, but I'll definitely point it out as we go, and this is going to be great. Looking at the tail first. All my camera angles are going to be pretty tight today, again, because it's not on a full lift. So you can see the two branches come off from the exhaust. We're going to make a cut right here on both sides, which I'll show and document very closely as we go through it. As we look up the body, as we roll, you can see our hangers as we go. We've got the resonators. We've got this mounting brace right here in the center that we're going to take off. We're going to take this all off in order, and I'll show you how we go through it. I just want to roll up the body as we go. So we continue up. You can see we can get up the body here, heading towards the motor. We've got another hanger there that we're going to take off. So you can see as we go. And we've got right here where your midpipe connects to your downpipe. So we're going to take off the 13mm nuts right there that will loosen that, but the connector plate with the big Allen bolts on it will stay. So I'll show each step as we go here. We roll back down the car, and I'll show each stage, each connection, as we look at all of our brackets that hold it in place and our braces, because this whole center section is going to come out. It's going to make a huge difference in your car as we go. All right, so one of the very first things we're going to do as we get back down here to the muffler, and this is not the MPE muffler, so one of the very first things we're going to do is I want to show you this connection. So this would be the passenger side. So you've got this large welded connection right here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to mark 1.5 inches in on both sides. And this is something you want to be exceedingly careful. So measure 3 or 4 or 5 times. Make sure it's absolutely right. We're going to measure 1.5 inches in, and we're going to mark. We're also going to use a hose clamp. We're going to put a hose clamp around the pipe to make sure that we got a nice straight line all the way around. So I'm going to set up, I'm going to measure and mark, and I'll show you that. And then I'll put the hose clamp on, and then we're going to mark all the way around. Then we're going to use our Sawzall to cut both sides. So this is one of the very first things we're going to do is cut both of these pipes. So let me get set up and get my hose clamps and get marked, and I'll show you what's next. Okay, so I've got the pipes marked. So we have the passenger side pipe, you can see marked. I put on my hose clamp and I put it into place and I marked all the way around. I've measured 1.5 inches from the weld, so make sure that you measure really, really closely. Now on the other side, I've left the hose clamp in place so you can see it. Now when I make the cut, I'll take it off. But I measured 1.5 inches, got a good mark in place, and then I put my hose clamp on and tightened it down so it's nice and even all the way, and then used my marker and marked all the way around the pipe. So I'll get a nice, clean, straight cut all the way through. Really important, you have to have an even cut when you go through here so it mates up perfectly with the midpipe. And you're going to have that big clamp that's going to go over the top of this, but whatever you do, you don't want to have, an uneven cut or ragged edges. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I've got a good metal blade on my Sawzall. I'm going to cut very, very carefully, but also I've got my metal file as well. So if there's any rough edges or anything else left when I'm done, I'll just take those off. I'll take any burrs or any metal edges off. So nice and easy, super simple. So I'm going to cut these pipes and I'll show you when they're done. All right, so I made both cuts. So as you can see, the muffler is now loose, and it's going to swing a little bit. So just be aware of that because it's on the two hangers here on either end, as you can't see as I try to point it with the camera. So both cuts are done. So we've got a little bit of gap here now, as you can see, which is great. Both cuts were nice and clean and even, which is fantastic. So that's okay that your muffler swings a little bit. The hangers on either end, it's on rubber hangers, so that's not going to hurt anything. So now I'm going to slide up the body all the way to the other end and take out the 13mm bolts that secure your mid-pipe at the far end. And then we're going to work our way back down the body, taking all of those, the hangers and locking plates that cross it, or the support plates across it that hold it into place. So let's roll down to the other end and I'll take the 13mm out. Okay, so here we are all the way on the motor side. As you can see, there's those 13mm. You don't need to take the Torx out. There are two 13mm nuts securing each end of these pipes. So we're going to take all four of those out. Then we're going to work our way back down the body and take out the support braces and hangers. And I'll show those next. And then we'll drop the whole pipes. Now, the one thing you're going to probably want to have handy is as these pipes come loose, at some point you're going to hit a point where you're going to have to support them a little bit. So I'm going to use jack stands. If you have a transmission jack, or if your car's higher in the air, you can use a transmission jack or something similar to support the pipes as they come loose. But you won't have to do that for these four. So I'm going to take these four, then I'm going to work my way down the body. All right, so I got the four nuts off on the flange here in the mid-pipe where it connects to the downpipes. The one thing I wanted to point out is the guide says 13mm. I've found on this car, which is a 2018 F80, they're 11mm. So it's not 13, it's 11 in this case. They're also a little bit rusty, which just makes sense being exposed to the weather. So if need be, you can always put a little WD-40 on them if they don't want to break free. These came off without, they're just visibly a little rusty, but they're not actually rusted down or anything, or any problems there. So they came off just fine. So now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to ease down the body here, scroll down. We're going to get to this support plate right here, right there, which is 6mm. So we're going to take out those 6mm bolts right here, so we can get this mid plate off. Then we're going to take the mid body hanger and then the two hangers off where it hangs at the muffler, and then your mid pipe is out. Okay, so I've taken the cross brace off, and I do believe I just said take the four out. You actually need to take all six. There's 1, 2, and then 3, and then that cross brace will come out. So I've taken that and set that aside. Let me come down the body here. I've undone one of these hangers at this end, so this would be the driver's side right here. So you can see the rubber hanger and the plate. If my camera will focus, my apologies for that being out of focus a little bit. Come on, focus for me. So you can see I've undone that there. That's a 13mm. There's also a 13mm on the other side that I haven't taken off yet because I wanted to show you this in place to take that off, because there really are only a few things hanging this in place. Now what you've also got, as I roll back up the body here, and this is the point where once you start taking this off, you're going to want to support the pipes, and I'm going to use jack stands to support it. This is that mid body hanger right here, and as you can see, those are reverse Torx. So you're going to need to have a reverse Torx bit. In the documentation or in the description of the video, I'll have all the tools and sockets that you need to get this done. And like I said, with the 11mm instead of the 13 up at the top of these pipes, we've hit one thing that's a little bit different, but not a big deal. So you need 13mm, 11mm. You need a T6 to take. Or excuse me, 6mm Allen to take that cross brace off. And so I'm going to get my jack stands. I'm going to support the muffler at this point, and we'll use our reverse Torx to take this middle hanger off. And then all we have to do is that one last hanger, and we can fit the pipes off. All right, so the mid pipe's out. So just as I described, you can see you've got those two tail hangers on either end. You've got a mid body hanger that's all the way up here that now you can see very clearly. You've got that mid body hanger, and those were a T10 reverse Torx. So the guide says it's a 13mm bolt. In this case, it was a T10 reverse Torx. So it comes out. Now, once you take this out, I supported, this would be the muffler end at this side, right? So if we're looking at the car, this is the muffler end. I used jack stands and I supported the ends, because as soon as these hangers come off, it's hanging and wants to sag. What you don't want to do is bend to the other end or bend your connections, because the only thing that's keeping it on at that point, as we look at these flanges, are the flanges here at this end and those 4 bolts. So I supported the muffler end using a jack stand, and then I crawled back up on the body underneath with my crawler, and I pulled the pipes down towards the muffler. So push them down towards the muffler to pull them off the posts right there. And they came off really nicely. So now, as you can see, we've got the new pipe, and I've got it laid out here so you can see it. What a huge difference. You can see not only significantly larger diameter, not a split pipe here in the middle, which is just amazing. The resonators are gone. The difference that this is going to make is tremendous. So now what we're going to do in this point, the next point, is transfer our hangers, and I'll show you how you do that, because we're going to transfer the hangers from one to the other, which is really simple. And then we're at reinstall. So we are more than halfway done. Okay, as we showed, we transferred the hangers. Make sure that when you transfer the hangers, the right ones go onto the right components and in the right angle. And I'll show specifically what I mean here in just a moment. So this is the mid section of the pipe. So what you do is, I've used my jack stand on the muffler side, which I'll show here in a second, to give myself a little bit of support. You hang it on the flanges and those 4 bolts, and you put your 11mm nuts back on. Those 11mm are, like I said, are different than the guide. They're 11s instead of 13s. And just put them on kind of finger snug right now, or just snug, not tight, because again, you're going to be moving the pipe around. We're going to get the ends attached and so on. As we come down the body here, we've got the midpoint hanger right here, which is, again, those reverse torques. Make sure that your hanger's in the right angle, so the plate's in the right angle here. Let me scroll down a little bit so you can see better. And I don't have those in yet. And then as I scroll down the body, look down the body, you can see where I've got a jack stand holding the end up. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put that mid body strut or plate back in. Those are those 6, 1, 2, 3, and the 3 on the other side, T6. So we're going to put those in, and then we can put our end components on with those brackets, and we're almost done. Okay, so I just want to show the update here really quick. So forgive a little bit of handshake. I'm having to hold the camera for all of this today. So you can see the mid-body hanger, that gray hanger is on with the T10 reverse torques. So make sure that hanger and plate is in the correct orientation when you transfer it to this new mid-pipe. I'm going to roll down the body here a little bit. This mid-body plate is on as well. And right now you can see the pipe is just laying on this pipe right now. So when you look at clearance, so if you lift the pipe all the way up, you can hear it hit the heat shield. If all the way at the bottom, it'll hit this plate. So one thing you really want to make sure that you do is that when you hang the rest of this, because we're going to hang the connector pipes between the mid and the exhaust now. So clearance is a big deal. So in my F32, I had when I put in the Active Autowerke exhaust, I had one of the pipes that wanted to rub on one of the struts, and I had to make sure that it was in the correct orientation for clearance, that it had just enough on top and just enough on bottom, that when I tightened everything up, it had space and didn't rub. So right now, this is just sitting on this mid plate. You can hear it just hit the metal right there. Make sure that when you install the rest of this, that you have clearance and you don't have anything rubbing, because that would really be a bummer. It would be addressable and you could fix it, but it would be a bummer to have to do it and listen to it while you're driving your car around. So right now it's resting on that mid pipe, or resting on that mid strut, excuse me, that cross brace right there. So I'm gonna get the 2 other pipes, and we're gonna look at connecting our ball joints right here, or our ball connectors right here on either end, and our clamps at the muffler, and we're almost done. Thing I wanted to show here really quickly. So this is the driver's side, and I'm gonna reverse the orientation a little bit to put it in the position it would be in the car, okay, like this. So make sure that you get this bracket on the right direction, because the top of this clamp only goes one orientation. So this being the motor side, this being the exhaust side. And so with both of these sections, you want to make sure the bracket's in the right orientation. It can be hard to get these off and on. So if you've got it reversed or in the wrong orientation, you have to take it off again, which is really a hassle. So you can see that the cup in this, that it's pointed the right direction. So we're going to install the driver's side first, and then the passenger side. We'll use the ball clamp at this end, and we'll tighten it down just snug for now. And we'll install the hanger with the 13mm, and then we can use the clamps at the other end to connect it to the muffler. But we're going to install both of these pipes first. I'll show you that. Okay, so the driver's side and passenger side pipes to the muffler are on with these ball joint connections right here. These are a little bit, they can be a challenge, let's put it that way. So what I found here, especially here on the driver's side, I found most successfully is that I had the clamp on as loose as it possibly could be, but still have the bolt into the nut here on the mid-pipe side. This is the exhaust side, this is the motor mid-pipe side. So then I slid this pipe up and I pulled this over onto the connector pipe to the muffler. And I found, especially here on the passenger side, it was much easier to do it that way, and it slid right on okay. The driver's side gave me a little bit of trouble to get it to fit in. We got it worked out, but it took a little bit of trouble to get on. And the same trick likely would have been better. I kind of learned the trick as I went, and it likely would have been better here on the driver's side if I'd learned that trick first. So I had it here on the mid-pipe side, slid it over because I held this up, because the pipe that goes to the muffler has a flange on it that goes around this mid-pipe. So it goes around, and then this ball clamp goes over the top of both of them. So make sure that you slide it on, and it avoids the challenge because it is so tight that if you're trying to drive the bolt up through and into the nut and hold the clamp at the same time, it's really a challenge and takes about 6 hands to do it. The one other thing that I noticed is here on the ball clamps, there's actually a note that says 30 nanometers plus or minus 2. So it's actually suggesting using 30 nanometers of a torque wrench to set these bolts to the correct tightness. So I'm going to make sure to do that. I didn't see that in the guide, so I'm going to follow the direction here on the clamp on what it should be set for. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use those big clamps to connect these smaller pipes to the muffler, and which will get the muffler oriented and set up again. The one thing that we want to really notice is, and again, here's that mid strut right here. Notice that the pipe is still sitting on the mid strut. So as we get this all oriented, we're going to want to make sure that this lifts up and away from the mid strut and isn't rubbing. So all right, so we're going to do the connections to the muffler next, and that's almost it. We're almost done. All right, so I wanted to do one last review. So we've got these mid clamps on, like I mentioned, and so let me describe this here really quickly. So what I did is I slid this clamp. I had both of these loose, and I would slid it onto these pipes. I lined the pipe up with the exhaust, and then I slid it on both sides, and it slides all the way up to the weld right here, and then you tighten them down thoroughly. This will also orient your muffler, because you'll feel like maybe your muffler tips are not quite oriented quite right. And we want to talk about gap and spacing here in a second, and as I slide up the body, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So keeping all your connections loose to get all of your orientation right, it's not loose but snug, is important, because you want to make sure your muffler tips are in the right orientation and the pipe has the right kind of clearance and all of that. So let me show you as I move up the body. So now everything is tight now because I've tightened everything down, I've oriented and tightened down, but I want to show you. So our clamps from the smaller pipes to the exhaust are on and tight, and these are 15 millimeter in this case. Now let me slowly slide down here and I'll show you the first hanger right here. So the hanger is on, this is 13 millimeter and it's tight, and that is an 8 millimeter to the little belly pan right there. That's also tight. As we slide down, we're going to look at our ball clamps. These are oriented with the nut to the inside in both cases, and these are now tightened to 30 nanometers, or Newton meters, excuse me. I always want to say nanometers, but it's Newton. So I've got a torque wrench, and so these are tightened down correctly to the correct tension. So I come down the body. Now the one thing I want to show here is you want to make sure that you get a little bit of gap right here. I mentioned earlier that the pipe was just resting on this brace. So to make sure that I was tightening everything else down, what I did was I put a little bit of a wedge in right here to push the pipe up just a little bit. You don't want to push too far, because if you feel above, you've got in a couple of places about a 1/4 inch of space between the pipe and your heat shield. And you've only got probably a 1/4 inch or so of space here. So make sure when you put in a little bit of a wedge block right here to hold this pipe up. So when you orient the muffler, that everything is oriented in the correct place and you have the gap. I've seen some criticism, or I've seen some comments that people ended up with a little bit of a rattle. Well, that would make sense if this pipe is resting down on this brace. So when you put this in here, you want to put in a little bit of a gap. Make sure that gap is there. So we're going to slide further up the body as we go here. All zoomed up really close, I know, but this new pipe looks amazing. We're going to come up here. We're going to be at the mid body hanger here. These are our T10 reverse torques. They're in and tight. And then as we come up, we'll come up to our top flanges. These are our 11 millimeter nuts, and they are down and tight. So at this point, the pipe is on and completely hung. It's completely set. The muffler tips are oriented. The pipe has clearance all the way through, down through the body. I want to make sure that it's not rubbing anywhere or any problems like that. But other than that, it's ready to put the car down, and we're done. Alright, so back in from the garage, all cleaned up, all my tools put away, and the car taken out for a test drive. The difference is so dramatic. You'll think that with your valve closed, with this new pipe, that it's open. The amount of growl and burble and pops and crackles it adds is just amazing, and that's just from the sound place. And the difference that it makes, and it takes some of that drone, the criticism sometimes is it sounds a little bit like a lawnmower. It takes all of that sound away and adds a real deep throaty note and makes a huge difference. It also makes a tremendous performance difference as well, which is also really important that you get both of these things, both sound and performance, and you're going to get them both with this pipe. As you can see, the install wasn't hard. You take it simply a step at a time, and you can walk through this. It really only takes some simple tools and some time. As you can see, also my quick jacks made a huge difference in being able to get the car up and off the ground really simply, and a good creeper that you can roll on underneath makes it really simple. Check the description of the video. I've got all the parts and tools that you need listed in the description as well. I really want to thank my partner Active Autowerke and the owner of this gorgeous F80 that I had a privilege to work on today. Really, really wonderful, and I strongly recommend it in your car. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you on my next video.